Hi and welcome to day 9 of 30 Days of Sketches with Christie's Beautiful Life, series 11. And today's sketch is a very exciting one because it was designed by me. First time I've designed a sketch and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think you'll agree it's definitely my style of sketch. So I'm using my good times from Pinkfresh Studio for this one, and some photos that we took when we went to Martha's Vineyard on our epic Boston trip back in 2015. So you can see here, I've just pulled out some of the colours that I want to use to create those strips that go behind, vertically behind the two photos. And my photos have been trimmed roughly to 3x4. So just getting these pieces cut down and then I can start distressing the edges. So I felt that green piece was a tiny bit big. I'm just using the scraps that I've got left over from this collection. This type of sketch is great for using bits and pieces that you've got left over. And I was very keen to use that yellowy orange piece with the leaves on as a central strip running right from the top to the bottom. And I also wanted to bring in this lilac because in the window and also the flowers on the top photo, there are little bits of this lilac-y purple in them, so I wanted to bring that out a bit. So starting off with all the strips, and then I shall move on after that to creating the circles on either side. So as I say, just coming through and distressing all the edges on these pieces before building them up to create that cluster. And I will glue all of this into one big piece and add some mixed media on the background, which is what I always do before carrying on. So just gluing everything down with my wet glue. These are quite nice pieces because they're quite geometric, so it's easy to get them straight with all the straight lines and the straight dots on them. So just checking where I want it to go and then adding the glue to the back piece so that I can press that down and onto it. Almost there now with these pieces. And I just love how these colours go together. They're not your usual autumn colours really, but they just work. I haven't used this collection nearly enough. I must make a concerted effort to use it a bit more. So there's that central strip that I wanted with all the vertical papers. So I'm now just checking my photos to see that I'm happy. I've put them the wrong way around there, so swap them round. And now I'm just having a look at the different papers I've got to create my circles. First of all, I start with this paper with all the leaves on it, but once I've cut it out, you can see me there using my water jar to create my circle. Once I've cut it out and put it there, I'm not quite happy. I definitely want something more orange. So in the end, I do actually go into my Halloween stash and pull out 2 of the orange papers, this dotty one. I'm using a mug this time to draw my circle. Really high tech over here in the Davies household. So just trimming that circle down. And that's so much better. It really makes those pumpkins stand out, which are the main focus of the layout. So I decided to swap out that smaller circle with this grid paper. So I shall just use that circle that I cut previously as my template. Draw around it and then pop that in and you'll see it works so much better. It's more defining, I think. So we'll distress all the edges of these 2 circles before sticking them down, just so that they match with all the other papers that I've got going on there. Almost done with this one. It also hides a multitude of sins as well when you distress the edges. I'm not brilliant at hand cutting circles. They always have some corners. So just distressing the edges takes that away. Almost there. So that's the basic structure of the layout. As I mentioned, I definitely want to add some mixed media behind. So I'm just going to get everything stuck down. Add some mats behind the photos, and this paper works brilliantly for that because it just gives a hint of colour rather than just being a stark white cardstock, so I really like that. Just checking that it hasn't moved because I'm using wet glue quite often when I'm trimming around. I managed to move the photo around as well, so when I've cut my paper I just check that I have got it centrally. And then again distressing the edges, and that hides if the borders aren't exactly straight. I've been using my scissors a lot more since I rediscovered my large blade ones, so they aren't absolutely straight like you would get from a trimmer, but I just find it easier and nicer to do. So there's the first photo. Again, just distressing all the edges, hiding those imperfections, adding some texture. And I feel it just softens the edges as well when you distress them. So now I just want to get these bits glued down so that I can go in with that mixed media that I've been talking about. Getting the position of the circles is a little bit of a faff, but I do get there. Trying to decide whether to go under or over with each of the photos as well, and then realising I've put the circle on top of the photo. Dear oh dear, it was a thing, but I got there. Just checking that they're well stuck down, and then just checking what I want to use for my chevrons. I wasn't sure whether I was going to punch some with my punch or use these JD3D wood, but the colour just works so perfectly with this layout I had to use the JD3D wood veneer. So just making sure that I'm happy with these before I take the layout apart and start adding the mixed media. So I was just hesitating there because I wasn't sure whether I wanted to use foam on these photos or to just stick them flat, but I decided to just stick them flat in the end. There are quite a few layers of paper behind them. That's what was making me think, would they be better on foam? So just having a check to see what I want to embellish with. These are some pre-stamped labels from the Ellie Studio label stamp. I will be getting that back in stock again on our next order with Ellie. So this is sage, bundled sage that I'm just cutting out now, and that yellow was fossilised amber. And it's really handy having this tub of labels pre-stamped just so that I can go into them when I want to just get on with the layout. So just trimming down another one to add up there. And then I had these Illustrated Faith labels, which I'd already used, but there was a border left on the sticker sheet, and I really wanted to use these black ones, so I'm just cutting out the border. One of them I shall just use it as a border sticker and leave the inside blank, and the other piece, the other one that I'll use, I shall stick onto some white cardstock and cut out so that it does have a white middle as well. So just having a play with these label shapes, deciding exactly what I want to do. And then coming in with my T-square ruler just to check that everything's centralised. And then I can draw around it and finally go in with that mixed media. So just creating that pencil line so that I can see exactly where the papers and photos will be when I add my mixed media. And I'm going to come in with a stencil today. So it's this diamond style stencil, sorry. I really like this one because it repeats very easily, and because it's such a small pattern, it just works really nicely. So I'm using the fossilised amber ink pad from Tim Holtz Distress Oxide, and just spreading that roughly around the pencil lines, and then I'll come in and have a look to see if I've gone out far enough, because of course the pencil lines are inside where the paper's going to go, and I didn't want to draw the line out too far, so just checking here, and you can see on the right hand side I haven't come out quite far enough, so just coming back in again, adding a little bit more. Like I say, I don't want it to be too uniform or too obvious. It's just adding a little halo of something extra behind that mat. Just making sure that I've got the bits where I want them to go. And then once that's done, I'm going to add some splatters with that same ink. So just finishing off at the bottom and then just trying to add a bit of the ink to the lid. It didn't work pressing down on the lid, so just using my dauber and then my paintbrush to add a bit more colour. And I've added some water just so I can add those splatters around. And once that's done, I shall just leave that to dry and then we can build the layout up. So that's it. Now that it's dry, I'm going to glue this down with my wet glue and then start embellishing. There's not an awful lot of embellishing to do. But I just want to add a title, a tiny bit of journaling and some embellishments just to create a bit of interest around the page. They're not the most exciting photos, so I do need to explain why they're there and, of course, where they are. So now that's down, I've pulled out some of the pieces from the ephemera pack and also some leaves that I've hand cut previously from the pattern papers. And this epoxy Flair is actually one of our DIY epoxy Flair stickers that we sell at Hey Little Magpie. And the Yes sticker is from the new My Mind's Eye Wildflower collection. It was on the sticker book and I just used that as a demo to show how the Flair work. But I just thought it works really nicely here. So just gluing those little bits down, just pulled out some autumnal pieces because this was November, so they work nicely with the photos. And I love that word title that says that fall feeling. I like how that pulls that circle out more. And then coming back in with these label shapes. So that black one is just the outline sticker that I'll be using just as an outline sticker. So you'll still see the mixed media through it, but I like the look of that. And then layering that fossilised amber one on top. And this label stamp is amazing. It's a great way of really stretching your stash. So just deciding if I want to use this square one, but I decide against it in the end. I think it changes the shape of the mat a little bit too much, so I didn't want it on that side, but it does find a place on the left hand side there. And another fossilised amber one there, and then the bundled sage on top. So this is the second Illustrated Faith label outline that I'm going to use, and this is the one that I will stick onto some scrap paper here, because I didn't want what I stick it onto showing through. So just adding some white paper behind it stops that. As I've said in the past, I'm very thrifty. And also if I want to use something that I don't have anymore, if there's a way of doing it, I shall do that. So there we go, it was a 2 for sticker sheet. So again, just gluing that down, trying to glue things down as I go today. So now having a look at some old Scenic Route stickers that I've got, and this little one just nestles nicely up at the top there. And a couple of little hearts from the ephemera pack, and now I'm coming in with the mini puffy alphabet that comes with this collection, the Good Times collection, and I'm spelling out Martha's Vineyard, which is where we were. So I've chosen one colour for the word Martha's and then a different colour for the word Vineyard. Bringing these chevrons back in. And I find this leaf that I pulled out and I really want to get that somewhere, and eventually it sits there, and I love that that finishes that cluster off really nicely there. So adding my journaling, And it's only a very short amount of journaling. It just says, such an elegant place. I really enjoyed seeing the pumpkins in doorways. Back in 2015, we really didn't see many fresh pumpkins out as decorations in the UK. It's becoming more prevalent now. I think we follow behind the US in a lot of our design things. But I did love seeing them just dotted about in the high street. I think Ross got a bit fed up with me taking photos, but it was just so lovely to see. And it's just capturing those memories, isn't it? That's why we scrapbook, to capture those memories and those feelings. And it still makes me smile when I look at them now, so it was worth it. So using my T-square ruler to get these chevrons stuck down. Just making sure that they're straight, because it's such an important design element to this sketch. I wanted to make sure that they were straight on there. And then using my roller date stamp to add the date in a couple of places. And that's it. Here are the close-ups. Thank you so much for joining me. Please do check the description box down below to see everybody else who's been playing along. I cannot wait to see what people create with my sketch. I really hope they enjoy playing with it. Until tomorrow. Bye.